and healthy, I want to play as long as they let me. I hear you, young Pat Mahomes.
Say it, homie.
So, Marcellus, let's talk this one through. Does Patrick Mahomes need to win this Super Bowl to catch Tom Brady?
Yeah, you think? I know you're no mathematician. You say that almost every block. I'm starting to question you and your acumen. But even Acho and his bad math has to know that 2 is on the way to 6. Like, you know, in the direction from going from 1. And mama say, where you going, boy? He's like, I'm going to catch 6. Well, you need to go to 2 first. And I think he literally needs to win this game to catch Tom Brady. But even figuratively, like even in the bigger scope of things. But let's talk about why. Acho, you brought up an astute point yesterday. Once again, I love you because you really bring out the best in me. Not because you add to me, you just make me think again of how great I am when you're texting. I'm kidding, let me stop. No, you said, you talked about a 2-ring swing yesterday in terms of Patrick Mahomes. He needs to win this because it's really going to be a 2-ring swing. Well, that swings both ways. Like, think about it. It could easily be 6-2. Go, Mahomes, here we go, a third of the way. Or it could be 7-1. Now, why is 7 so important in this conversation? Obviously, that would be the amount of rings that Tom Brady would have. But also, 7 rings is more than any other NFL player has played in number of Super Bowls. That number 7. No other player has played in more than 6 Super Bowls. Played in. I ain't talking about 1. Played in. And this dude is going to say, not only have I played in 10, I've won 7. So what are the odds that you, Patrick Mahomes, and your availability response and respect for Tom Brady, how are you going to close that gap when no other player has even put themselves in position, let alone won that amount? That's pretty daunting. And let's remember also, Patrick Mahomes, his record potentially could be 6-2 in postseason play. I wonder what the 2 would look like. I wonder where the 2 would point at. I wonder what the 2 would represent. Oh, it will be a loss to the GOAT in the AFC Championship game, 1. And what would the other 2 be? Oh, it would be a loss to that same GOAT in the Super Bowl. You can't be perfect everywhere else and can't beat this guy because last time, using Acho's words against him again, you told me Lamar Jackson has that glass ceiling over him. Figuratively, there's something haunting him called Patrick Mahomes.
Yes, sir.
So if you're going to punish Lamar Jackson because of Patrick Mahomes, I'm going to punish Patrick Mahomes because of Tom Brady, the GOAT.
I agree with that, actually, big dog.
Oh, good. I was ready to fight.
Put your fist down, Marcellus.
Okay.
We on the same side on this one.
Oh, good.
You're exactly right. If Tom Brady goes to 7 and keeps Patrick Mahomes at 1, Patrick Mahomes would need 7 Super Bowls to surpass Tom Brady. Like, not just to you got to get 7 just to surpass Tom Brady. And you already been a 2, Patrick Mahomes. Now, everyone is saying, well, Acho, if Tom Brady can play till he's 43, why can't Mahomes? Let's unpack that statement.
Okay.
There are statistical norms, and then there are outliers. That's what I believe. There are outliers to the norm.
I believe you.
Tom Brady is an outlier. I'm not going to assume that every great quarterback will be able to play to 43. We've seen Drew Brees, sure ballot, future Hall of Famer, fall off the cliff. Hurt this past year, hurt the year before, then had his worst game and the most important game in the last decade this year. So I'm not going to assume that just because you are a physical freak and just because you're a Hall of Famer, which Patrick Mahomes looks like he's in track to be, if not already, that he can play until he's 43. But let's unpack this statement a little more. Because anybody who wants to say Mahomes doesn't need to win this to outdo Tom Brady, you're short-sighted. Maybe Mahomes got 10 good years. Maybe he has 15 good years left. You want to know who doesn't? Andy Reid. Right? Like, Andy Reid's 62 years old, and he's the brains behind the operation. He's the engine to keep the car going. He probably ain't got 15 great years of coaching left in him. Maybe he does, but he, again, would have to be a statistical outlier. You want to know who really ain't got 15 great years left? Tyreek Hill. You want to know who else doesn't? Travis Kelce. And if we want to assume that Patrick Mahomes will be able to have 2 dynasties, kind of like Tom Brady did, I'm not convinced that Patrick Mahomes will be able to stumble into maybe the fastest offensive player the game of football has ever seen, and also stumble into maybe the best receiving tight end the game of football has ever seen. So for those reasons, Patrick Mahomes must win this one because you do not know how long or if you're ever going to be able to reload the firepower you currently have right now.
Interesting. You said it, but I just want to highlight it with emphasis. You can reload. Tom Brady, through 20 years, reloaded in terms of weapons and even made some guys who weren't weapons into weapons.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm not going to discount Patrick Mahomes in that forecast. What I am going to say is simple right now. The only way to close the gap is to literally close the gap. I mean, I don't know what other world we live in. I understand how social media right now has people living in an alternate reality because you can post whatever you want and skew how people perceive you. But the reality is still the reality. And I know behind the scenes that Patrick Mahomes sitting on 1 and Brady going to 7,
yep.
or even Mahomes sitting there at 2 and at 6. There's still a lot of football left to be played. This is $1 million buy-in table, and you're a gambling man. You know about it. I don't need no dude coming up to me with 100 and some thousand talking about, yeah, let me in. Oh, I got 150, 55, 60. No, as soon as you start counting them little numbers, you ain't gonna make it to $1 million. Brady's sitting there like, yo, I got these chips. And what do you have? You have a chip and some conversation, brother. And it's not enough to talk me into saying that he is the GOAT or in the GOAT conversation. I look at it also like this. When will Patrick Mahomes ever have it this good? He may have it this good for a couple of more years.
Correct.
But as good as this, what? This dude has played in 53 games, 53 career starts, including the playoffs. He has the most wins, most passing yards, most passing touchdowns, and the highest passer rating of any quarterback ever through 53 games. To duplicate that, that will be another 53, taking them to 106. You could do that. And you may get to 4 rings. Then you got to do that again. That would take you to 6 rings, and you still haven't surpassed Brady
let's put something in context.
Come on, man.
Greatest defensive lineman of all time, in your opinion?
Bruce Smith.
Bruce Smith, the one and only. One day we on set, I don't know if you remember this, and I said, hey, Marcellus, how many sacks Bruce Smith got? And he said he got 200. I'm like, God, dog, 200. But then that didn't really blow my mind when you said 200. It didn't.
Okay.
What blew my mind was when you said this. You said, Acho, to get to 200, you either got to play 10 years and have 20 each year or play 20 years and have 10 each year. And that's when I said, bruh. Like, I got to say nothing else. So to your point, Patrick Mahomes, if you let Tom Brady get to 7, you essentially have to have the success that you've already had 3 more times. And that's just when you talk track and field, because we talk it so often,
let's do it.
There can come a point, regardless of how good that last leg is, that person who holds the baton through the finish line, if the stagger's too great, you just can't make it up. And this game, I think, will dictate the stagger. If Tom Brady gets to 7 and keeps Mahomes at 1, that stagger, I think, will be too great for Patrick Mahomes to make it.
Yeah, that longevity. Patrick Mahomes gave props to Tom Brady in part with focus on longevity. He knows that he's great, but he's like, can I be great that long is the conversation. I always bring up J.J. Watt and that mysterious text I got about talk to me in 10 years about J.J. Watt. I'm going to bring up another one that a lot of people don't give credit to, but in terms of talent, there hasn't been a defensive lineman more talented than Javon Curse that I've seen.
Freak.
Thank you. His nickname was the Freak. I'm going to give you one example of how great this guy was. First of all, his first 3 years, he had 36 sacks, 14 and a half as a rookie. Rookie! They saw him coming. He ran a 4.4 weighing 240. It was insane. We went to the Pro Bowl. We had to do a 10-yard sprint. And this is all Pro Bowl defensive linemen, so we all good.
All good.
Coach said, set, go. We all took one step.
And you already been a 2, Patrick Mahomes. Now, everyone is saying, well, Acho, if Tom Brady can play till he's 43, why can't Mahomes? Let's unpack that statement.
Okay.
There are statistical norms, and then there are outliers. That's what I believe. There are outliers to the norm.
I believe you.
Tom Brady is an outlier. I'm not going to assume that every great quarterback will be able to play to 43. We've seen Drew Brees, sure ballot, future Hall of Famer, fall off the cliff. Hurt this past year, hurt the year before, then had his worst.